Japanese is an awesome language. There is so much you can learn and so much fun you can have with learning Japanese. But there's one problem that a lot of people face when they're learning Japanese. Now, this doesn't just apply for Japanese, it applies for any language, and actually, it also applies for anything we start to learn new. And the problem is, this is a big one, is that people try to start where they currently are. But especially with learning a language, there's a slight problem. Actually, it's a big problem, and it's something that people really get stuck on, especially language learners. I got stuck on this. I've got stuck on this several times, and I've had to struggle to overcome it. Some days I still have to re-overcome it, actually. But it's super important. And I actually go through this in quite a lot of detail in my book. What I wish I had known before learning Japanese. If you want to learn about it more in detail, you can buy my book from the link below. But today I at least want to help those who might be struggling. And my goal is to give you as many tools as possible to help you better learn Japanese. And so one of the things that's really important to understand when you start learning Japanese, you start off at level 1. Actually, it's level 0. You're not even on a level. And I like to think of this as being a baby again. When you start learning a language, you are literally a baby. You can't talk, you can't speak, you do not understand what is being said, and you can't read or write. So basically, you're helpless. And this is a great place to start, because it means you can't go any further down. You can only go up from there. So if you feel frustrated, you don't know where you're going, if you feel like your Japanese is not progressing, if you feel like you're not sure where to start, the first thing to understand is you've got to start at the very beginning. Start at being a baby. And like babies, learn to mimic those around you. Now, you might not be living in a place where there are lots of Japanese people that you can mimic. You might be living overseas, far away from Japan. But with all of the YouTube videos, with all of the online videos you can access, you can start to listen and learn from what those videos are showing. There's a lot of people online who are teaching Japanese. And so you can start to mimic them, mimic their pronunciation, mimic their vocabulary, and start to learn from them. I recommend when you first start to learn something is to make a giant mind map. Grab a big piece of paper, A4 at the smallest. If you can, go A3 or A2. Stick 2 pieces of A3 paper together. In the middle, write the word Japanese. And then start beginning to write everything you know about Japan and the language. This is a fun way to start dipping your fingers into the water, to start getting yourself into learning Japanese. And this will also help you to see what you're interested in. Then you can start to branch out. So write everything you know about Japan, everything you know about Japanese, and then start to build on some of those points bit by bit. Start to add some new vocabulary. Start to add some more information about the language. I always think it's great to learn about the language. So you want to learn about what the language is. What is hiragana? Where does it come from? What is kanji? Why do we have kanji? Learn about the country. Why? How many islands are there? What's the main island called? What's the island at the top called? What's the island down the bottom called? What's the island far down the bottom called? So think about those things and start to research and learn. And as you do, you'll actually find it's super interesting to learn Japanese. You can then start to learn to build upon what you know. And that's why I think it's great to do a mind map. because it helps you understand how much you actually know about Japanese before you start. And then you can start to build on it. You can say, I actually don't know anything about hiragana. Well, let's learn about it. Then let's learn hiragana. And once you know hiragana, you can then start to attach different vocabulary to the different letters, or to the different characters, sorry. And you can then build on from that. So what's really important is to understand you start at zero like a baby, and like a baby does, you have to start to build your language muscles. And as you build your language muscles, these include even your facial muscles. You have to develop new muscles to speak Japanese. And as you do that, you start to learn and grow. And eventually, like a baby, you'll be able to crawl. You'll be able to walk. And eventually, you'll be able to run. If you want to find out a lot more about this, you can from my book. But at least you can understand that you've got to start at the very beginning when you start learning something new, especially a language like Japanese.